Here's what I'm not going to do. And one of those should be, I am not going to review the other side's appraisal.
Originating from deep inside the Rocky Mountains, transported through the power of the internet, and arriving inside your tiny earbuds. It's the Appraiser Coach podcast, helping appraisers increase their efficiency, quality, and make more money. Here's the guy who makes it his life's mission to create value for real estate appraisers nationwide. Your host and the Appraiser Coach, Dustin Harris.
Welcome, everybody, to the Appraiser Coach podcast. My name is Dustin Harris, and I am the Appraiser Coach. And coming up, I've got the Appraiser's Advocate with me. But first, I want to pause and remind you that we're sponsored by a couple of great companies, one of them being Spark. Spark, folks, is the ability for you to save money. Check them out by going to sparkforappraisers.com. And OREP Insurance. OREP also will save you money over whatever you're using currently for your E&O. Check them out by going to orep.org. That's OREP.org. I want to welcome back to the program my good friend and friend of the program, the Appraiser's Advocate, Mr. Tim Andersen. Welcome, Tim.
Dustin, how are you? I appreciate it. Appreciate the opportunity to be here with you. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's summertime here in Idaho, as it is, I guess, across North America. But summertime in Idaho is different than summertime in Florida, I would assume. You might get a little bit more humidity than we get.
Oh, a tad.
A little
And
bit.
maybe a little bit more rain, yeah.
I'm not
Maybe
jealous. I'm
hurricane-
not jealous.
Maybe a hurricane or two. Minor stuff, yeah.
I welcome you back, my friend. Of course, Tim comes on frequently to answer questions from listeners about USPAP. He, in addition to other things that he does, he is a USPAP instructor and USPAP expert. In fact, I would call you, Tim, the USPAP expert, but that's just my opinion. But we have had a couple of questions come in, my friend. I want to take one, then we'll go to a break, and then we'll take the second one. And just kind of do a shout out to these individuals who have sent in these questions. And that is my encouragement, listeners. If you do have USPAP questions, feel free to send them in. We don't have to use your name if you want to remain anonymous. We typically don't wait until the episode to answer the questions. We'll answer you right away over email, but sometimes ask your permission to bring those onto the program because, as I learned many years ago, Tim, if one person has a question, it's likely they're not the only person to raise their hand. So hopefully we can get these answers to others. You ready?
Sounds good. Let's do this.
Awesome. Okay, the first one comes from Jerry J. Jerry, I think is female, Jeri. And Jerry says, with regard to ROVs, so reconsideration of values, Tim, seems like Fannie Mae includes the borrower as a user, but doesn't USPAP say the borrower is not an intended user? What say you, friend?
Okay, Jerry, you are right, and you are right. So,
That was easy.
yeah, that's simple. Okay, let's get into it. If you go to the June 5th, 2025 edition of the Fannie Mae Selling Guide, and you go to I'm looking at it right now, page 582, you will see reconsideration of value, and it sets everything out. And it's very straightforward. It now sort of kind of favors us. And if you read through it, you'll find out why.
Wait. I want to stop you for a second, Tim.
Yes.
Did you just say Fannie Mae favors the appraiser? What? Oh, wait, you said kind of.
Well, that's why I said sort of, kind of.
Yeah, okay.
Sort of, kind of. You attend some of the national conferences and you get to meet some of these folks, and you find out that they're just, nice people. Maybe misguided, but just nice folks. Anyway, the point is, Jerry, the reconsideration of value puts the borrower into a position of a de facto intended user. And USPAP says there is no such thing as an intended user unless the appraiser sets someone up that way. Unfortunately, I think it's certification number 23 basically says anybody, uh, the borrower and anybody with a pulse can use this appraisal. Now, that doesn't make them a client, but it apparently makes them an intended user. So to say, no, I don't have to do an ROV because the borrower is not my client and the borrower is not an identified intended user isn't going to carry any water.
Mm.
Because, well, let's put it this way. You say no once, and then Fannie goes, oh, okay, thank you, and you're off the list. And well, I quite frankly would recommend you get off the list. You get out of GSE appraisal work. And we're recording this on a Thursday.
Mm.
I would recommend you get out of it on Friday. A lot of appraisers don't share my sentiments. And the simple reason is you're going to follow Fannie Mae's rules, period, end of sentence, be they wonderful or stupid,
Yeah.
or you're not going to do their work. There really isn't much other choice. And there are too many other opportunities out there to appraise merely to limit yourself to GSE work.
When we get back from the break, Tim, another question from a listener. I first want to pause and remind people of a couple of great companies out there, one of them being OREP Insurance. Folks, OREP is not just an insurance company. They are a brokerage. There is a difference. Basically, what that means is they will shop your specific situation to specific companies. They're not beholden to just one, which means they do the footwork to save you money and to get you the very best coverage out there. If you're with any other E&O insurance provider, folks, I would highly recommend that you pick up your computer and you run to orep.org and check them out. That's OREP.org. Speaking of working for Fannie Mae, speaking of the changes that are occurring in the Fannie Mae world, folks, you need something that can help you to do appraisals faster, more efficiently, and with better quality. And all of that comes with a little company called Spark. Spark for appraisers. That's Spark, F-O-R, appraisers.com will help you to be able to input the information that you source. Some people get a little bit confused. They're like, I don't want a black box just putting information into my report. Folks, you're completely in control. This simply saves you the data entry time. And the cost is minimal compared to what you will get back in return. Check them out on the web at sparkforappraisers.com. And we are back with my good friend, Mr. Tim Andersen, the Appraiser's Advocate. Folks, if you need assistance and help supporting your adjustments, defending your reports, bulletproofing them so that you're not in trouble with the state board, Tim, how do they get a hold of you?
Dustin, thank you. My email address is tim@theappraisersadvocate.com, and I will be happy to work with you. I do consulting, I do tutoring, I do mentoring, and well, it may seem like the world is about to end if that letter from the state arrives. It isn't. And is that a pleasant situation? No. But worse things could happen. You could be like me and pass kidney stones. But it's not a reason to get your affairs in order because you're going to die. It's a reason to get your affairs in order so you don't make that mistake again.
Love it. Love it. Thank you, Tim.
This most states are looking to rehabilitate their appraisers rather than merely sanction them, frankly.
Yeah, that's a good thing, I think. All right. Another question, Tim. This comes from Jamie, one of our listeners here at the Appraiser Coach podcast. And I'm just going to read it. He says, hey there, hope you and your family are doing well. I've got an appraisal question for you that you might want to use for your podcast when you have Tim on. Most of my work is divorce work these days. Sometimes I am asked to look at an appraisal performed from the other side and share my observations as to why there is a difference in the opinions of value. Would this be considered an appraisal review? Or at what point would this turn into an appraisal review? And just a thought swinging around in my head. Have a great rest of your weekend. Signed, Jamie. So, Tim, kind of set this up. Those that do non-lender work, specifically divorce work or work where they might end up on the stand, and I've run into this situation as well. You're on the stand and the attorney on the other side pulls up the other report that was done on the same property, basically the same effective date, and says, "Well, why is there $50,000 difference between your report and his?" So the question from Jamie is, I mean, is that a review assignment when you start to give your opinion on the other appraisal?
Okay, we got to be careful, Dustin. And I've got USPAP open right now. And the definition of an appraisal review is the act or process of developing an opinion about the quality of another appraiser's work.
Okay.
And then it goes on a little bit longer than that. But the point is, you'll notice it doesn't say anything about communicating that opinion. It just says forming the opinion. And this is where we have to be really careful. Now, your attorney is going to retain you and say, okay, Jamie, go appraise the house and make sure that your appraisal is well done because you're going to be on the stand defending it, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's not a problem. You can do that all day long. You should do that all day long. And you should charge a whole lot of money to do that all day long. Now, the attorney, you're having lunch and the attorney says, oh, Jamie, and by the way, here's the other side's appraisal. Why don't you tell me about it? Okay, now, you can look at it and say, oh, gosh, it's written on paper with black ink. Wow, that's okay. And hand it back to him. But when the attorney wants you to say, well, Jamie, tell me 10 things that I can use to pick this thing apart. Okay, then you're okay. You're not independent anymore. You're not unbiased. And of course, the definition of an appraiser is one who provides valuation services in a manner that's independent, impartial, and objective. So you got to be real careful. I would recommend that in that case, you politely hand the report back and say, in order for the answer to be totally objective, you should get another expert. And the attorney will probably say, well, my client can't pay for another expert. Well, okay, but the thing is, if I do it, I've obviously formed a value opinion that disagrees with that one. My opinion of this other appraiser's work is obviously going to differ. But yet, because I'm coming from it, or I'm coming at this from already having formed an opinion, my opinion is therefore biased. And it won't do you any good in court. Now, the attorney says, well, don't write anything down. Just tell me. Okay, now you're getting off into, did you mislead your client in setting up your scope of work? So your engagement letter is going to be, first of all, in GSE work, the client gives you the engagement letter, even though it's not supposed to be that way. But in non-GSE work, you should give the client the engagement letter. And it should say very specifically, here's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And it should say very specifically, here's what I'm not going to do. And one of those should be, I am not going to review the other side's appraisal. I'll look at it, I'll read it, but I'm not going to review the other side's appraisal for the purpose of giving you ammunition to rebut the appraisal.
Right.
And then for the reasons I just explained. Now, can an attorney call you up and say, Jamie, I just want you, and you've got nothing to do with it. It just called you out of the blue. You guys go to Rotary together. And the attorney says, Jamie, I want you to review this and give me 10 reasons to pick it apart. You can do that. You can do that all day long because you haven't been otherwise engaged in the first place.
Okay.
And that's more of a consulting assignment.
Tim,
Okay.
does it make a difference if you're on the stand? In other words, I can see, and this wasn't Jamie's question, but it's my question. If you're on the stand, could you say that there's a jurisdictional exception? In other words, you're sitting there and I set up that situation. The other attorney says, "Well, why is there $50,000 difference?" No. Okay.
Because there isn't. And to say, well, there's a jurisdictional exception, if the attorney is sharp, and I'm not saying attorneys are not sharp, but let's face it, they got too much to do to come to understand USPAP.
Hmm.
What that to say, if I were the attorney, given what I know about USPAP, and you were to make that statement, then basically what I would do is open USPAP and say, okay, would you kindly please read here the circumstances under which a jurisdictional exception can be invoked. And first of all, it's not floating around out there in the ether. An entity of competent jurisdiction must issue an order to you that says you will follow USPAP except for this teensy weensy part. You don't have to follow that one.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you got to follow USPAP. But there are relatively few entities of sufficient jurisdiction to do that. A court, okay, a state legislature, something along those lines. But just you to say, well, okay, I'll go ahead and do that. I'll just claim a jurisdictional exception means that you don't understand USPAP. And my line of questioning as the attorney, and obviously I'm not an attorney, would go toward your competence. And the judge merely has to have one doubt about your competence. And
Yeah.
everything
Else is in question, right?
So do not ever invoke jurisdictional exception, mostly because you can't.
Right. Got it.
Only an entity of sufficient jurisdiction can do that, and you aren't that entity.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, we could push further on this because the next question that I would ask is, what if the judge requires an answer from you? That probably gets into the realm of that invocation. But nonetheless, Tim, just because I want to hear you say it one more time, how do people get a hold of you if they have questions and need your assistance?
Tim at TheAppraiser'sadvocate.com.
Thank you, my friend. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, Dustin. We'll be in touch, my friend. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the Appraiser Coach podcast with Dustin Harris. If you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star rating and post a short review on iTunes. For more in-depth insider information on how you can make more money as a real estate appraiser, visit TheAppraiserCoach.com and sign up for the All-Star team today. Thanks for joining us. And now, get out there and create some value.